Welcome everyone to the CISI Podcast, Career Talks. My name's Emma Dobson and I chair the Young Professionals Network Committee. In this series, the committee's been grilling each other on how we got to where we are today in our careers, our experiences of the CISI and the Young Professionals Network so far, and who we would like to have as our ultimate guest speakers. We hope you enjoy the series, getting to know the committee. And if you have any feedback or questions, please find us on LinkedIn or contact us through CISI by emailing ypn@cisi.org.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first recording of the CISI committee. We thought it might be an idea to give you a bit of an insight into us as individuals as well as a bit of a collective. So you're joined by me, so I'm Ross Jeffries of Panoramic Wealth, and I've been on the committee a couple of years now, and I'm actually joined by our chair, and I will let her introduce herself. So over to you, Emma.
Thank you. Hi, so my name's Emma Dobson. I'm currently working with Lombard ODA based in London in Mayfair. I'm the chair of the London committee for the CISI's YPN, very proudly to be so. And Ross and I have both been working on the committee since it was founded in 2019. And I think I'll start with that, and then I think you've got some more questions for me, so we'll roll through.
Yeah, well, first off, I just wanted to say, how have you found it? How have you found being on the committee with something that is relatively different to the normal, especially given the last 12 months, and how you found being chair for, I think, 18 months now? It's not been the most plain sailing of periods of sort of baptism of fire, shall we say.
Absolutely. So like I said, we both joined around September 2019. I know there had been sort of a student forum and some different ideas before then, but there was sort of a relaunch. I've been involved with CISI previously just through exams, attended a few events and things like that. I've always tried to be brave and speak to people at events and things like that, and I think I kind of got connected. I also was super fortunate that within the firm that I work for, I have the direct liaison with CISI, so through connections there as well, I just got more and more involved. The committee itself and the YPN, I think we found that it was really good. We were on a real roll with our face-to-face events to start with. We did some fantastic speed networking, pub quizzes, which everyone knows is one of my favorite events of the year. And then the committee itself this year, since the lockdown, so I was officially asked to become the chair of the committee in May last year, which was sort of during the lockdown. And we focused on having virtual events. The fortunate point for that is actually that we've been able to do some more national stuff. So it's not just focused on London. We've been able to connect with people on a little bit more of a wider spectrum. And I think one of our big successes has been also one of the events that we've done, which has connected us with the wider forums as well. So rather than just being focused on YPN, being able to connect with compliance, operations, wealth planning, etc., and do events where we can match up with them and discuss futures and things like that with them.
It is super interesting, and obviously, yeah, like I say, I've been involved in it as long as you have, and I think you've touched on some really interesting points there. But I think we sort of take it back completely. So, in terms of how did you get to where you are now? So, let's start university. Did you go to university and sort of from that way onwards? How did you find your way into the seat that you're in now? Both in the business and at the head of the table for the CISI YPN.
So my story is a bit of a strange one, and I hope that it's something that people will be not inspired by. My ego is not that big, but it's definitely not your usual route into financial services. So I went to university in Portsmouth and I studied Spanish and Latin American studies. So not, a traditional maths or economics business degree. That included a year abroad, and that was, eye-opening, but again, not based in financial services, a good experience, but a life experience more so than an educational one or an academic one. Bizarrely enough, when I don't know if it's the same for everyone, you have the career advisors in your final year trying to help you into the world after your kind of 4 years of mayhem. And all the psychometric tests that they make you do suggested that I should be doing something a little bit more numerical, which was a surprise because I'd obviously been quite humanities based for a good 5 or so years. And so originally I was looking to proceed into an accountancy role, and I did some work experience and things like that. And I really enjoyed it. I'm a big geek for Excel spreadsheets. And so that seemed like a good fit. But when I actually came to do any of the grad schemes, and that was the original route that I wanted to take, was I was going to do some grad schemes in London with an accountancy firm. I did very well in a lot of the competency exams and the verbal reasoning and that kind of stuff. But the numerical side was where I was falling down. My brain was just too slow. I hadn't used it for those sorts of skills before. And the advice I was given was just to find a role in financial services and take it from there. spend a year in industry, get my brain working in that numerical way again, and then go again into the exams and go for the grad scheme the second time round. And I'll be honest, what happened in reality was that I found my job in financial services, and I went to originally a firm called World First, which is an FX payment provider. And they were a fantastic company in the sense that they focused a lot on personality. And I can't recommend enough when you're looking at roles and opportunities, thinking about the environment that you're going to be working in. And I think that's becoming increasingly more important nowadays. It's about looking after employees and putting, work-life balance. The environment during COVID has been really relevant for that too. I worked there. I basically interviewed for lots of different roles, and every time I got through to the next round, but the role would go internally, which I have to admit from experience is normally a good thing too. It means that they know their employees, they respect their employees, they like having people to kind of stay inside, and they like to benefit from the personalities that they've already taken on. So I made through the journey, but I got to my face-to-face interview for like the fourth role that I tried to look for, and it was for a compliance position, and they said they found out that morning that they had a role available in the team. And I quite honestly said to them, I'll meet the head of compliance there, fantastic woman called Millie Richardson. But I said, I have to be honest, I don't know what compliance is. I've never even heard of it. I don't know anything about it. And as I say, Spanish degree, never studied economics, business, anything like that. It was completely new to me. But I had a little bit of my, the way that my brain works, a bit more logical, numerical. When I was much younger, 16, I did the work experience with a law firm, criminal law firm. And so they kind of said, we think your brain works in the right way. And I have to admit, if there's, again, any advice I can give to people, those soft skills, transferable skills, things that you enjoy, I think are really important when you're looking at roles and considering roles that, maybe you think that you're not quite qualified for, because that's where I fell into. And I definitely fell in love with compliance. And I think lots of compliance officers will probably understand that. Many people on the other side, and Ross, I can see you laughing from there, will not necessarily see the positives for it, but I've absolutely fallen in love with it. I'm a real problem solver, and I feel that that's where compliance for me, that's the strength. So I'm really going into this. So anyway, compliance, I went through, I did FX, I stayed in there for a while, and then I went into private banking. When I came into private banking, again, I've stayed in quite small institutions. The advantage there with CISI meant that I would have that direct connection. So Matt is our relationship manager for the bank, and I work with him directly. There's not, a part of a big enough team where that would get swallowed up, or there's someone else that picks up that relationship. And so by getting involved with Matt, again, quite a young person, CISI have a lot of diversity in the people that they take on as well. Really positive, I think, experience for me. And we just kind of helped each other out. I've been quite enthusiastic and given lots of energy, a lot of time, a lot of my own time to it. And I think that was what was recognized. I'm not one that's very good at blowing my own trumpet. So I think they saw something that they liked. I thought they think they saw some energy that they liked, and maybe a safe pair of hands. So that's where it came from. So we obviously, you and I both got involved at the beginning at that stage. And a lot of this has just been about ideas. It's been about events. It's been about trying to represent the wider membership. What do we want to do? What do we want to get out of it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's grown from there. So the face-to-face side of it was much, much easier. It was great to put on events, see the successes of that. You get to see people, speak to people, get input, grow, make suggestions, take that input, take it forward, do new ideas, etc. And then now under lockdown, it's more about connecting. I try and connect with people on LinkedIn after events and say hello and see what people's feedback are in different ways. So we've adapted. And then in terms of heading up the team, I'm not the head of the team. I think I like to think that we're a committee, but we're all together. I'm not a dictator. It's very much a case of I'm just there to kind of guide and kind of, I don't know, lead everybody, but in a very fluid way. I think we all work very well together. We've all got very different backgrounds, strengths and weaknesses, and we play to that and we push everyone's idea, but it's a really open forum. I'm just lucky to be involved the way that I am. I'm very grateful for it too.
No, that's really interesting. And to pick up on one point that you've talked about, a couple of sort of instances there was direct connections, and you've named a few people, but in terms of almost like mentors, have you taken inspiration from mentors throughout, or is it something that you've kind of picked up here and there, or have you ever been sort of not attached but sort of guided by one or two influences throughout your career so far?
Yeah, it's a really good question. If I ever actually really had a regret, it's that I didn't maintain mentors in that sense. So actually, I've mentioned Millie, but she was phenomenal, and she introduced me to compliance, and I still, as I am today, talk about her, and I couldn't recommend someone like that in your background. If you find them, keep them, connect with them. Don't be afraid often to stay in touch when you move on. And I think if you find someone like that, really hone in on that. because it can be really vital. It can be really, really, really valuable. And especially when you move into bigger businesses where you can get a little bit swallowed up, it's good to have someone that you can go to and you can ask the silly questions to and get advice from. It's not an easy world out there. So I think mentors are really key. But in many ways, I've actually been unlucky since then. I haven't had that kind of structure. And there's some positives that come from that. So one of the key, my middle name tends to be resilience when it comes to compliance. I've had a really rocky kind of time in terms of management and support as I've gone through the rest of my career. And there's lots of positives that come from that. Like I say, resilience is one of them. You tend to become quite self-sufficient, very organized. And again, coming back to CISI, one of the key things was about personal development. So where I was lacking in mentorships, I've taken it on myself to feel like I'm making my own personal progress. So for example, I've done the investment compliance diploma, which is a series of exams through CISI that ultimately leads to sort of a big 3-hour written exam at the end. And that was something that for me kept me going. So even though I didn't feel like I necessarily had individuals around me to show me that I had a hurdle I was coming over, I was developing at a certain pace, I have taken an exam sort of on an annual basis to kind of make myself feel like I've developed. And then this committee, the YPN, all of my work with CISI is another really key area for me to feel like I'm growing and I'm making a difference and I'm sharing. But in terms of my work day to day, a lot of it's self-starter. And it's made me quite strong from a compliance perspective, I think, because it means I have to go back to basics. I have to really go down to the core foundations of regulation and law to really understand and really embed my understanding of what my work is. So I think you can take from both. If you have a personality where you can pick up and grow and you can do it on your own and be independent, it's great. But I would absolutely say if you can find a mentor, then hold on to it and don't let it go. It's a really invaluable source if you can find it.
Would you think about looking to sort of shoe on the other foot, become a mentor, and looking to sort of obviously pass that wisdom from all those pub quizzes that we've been to together down to the next generation of young professionals coming through?
Absolutely. I mean, as the defending champion of the pub quiz 2020, and I remind you of that, Ross, because it's an open invitation to take me on next year. Yes, I'm absolutely prepared to mentor people through the pub quizzes. But no, on a serious note, I would absolutely. I mean, as you can hear, I'm very passionate about, when you find a mentor, how valuable that can be, and to give that back would be amazing. And again, part of the work that I wanted to do with YPN would be to do that. I mean, we've got such a broad age range from 18 to 35. Everybody has the opportunity to provide something to other people. And so even for me, like, I would love to be privileged enough to do that and share, but anybody can help. And I think one of the things it really does, and I do a lot of training, I deliver a lot of training and things like that as part of my day to day. I think that supporting people, helping people, training people, it helps embed your own knowledge, understanding, experiences, and it helps to sort of grow your perspective too. So I don't think there's ever like a one-way street on this kind of stuff.
And then obviously with the 12 months that we've just had, scuppering our well-laid plans for future events, where do you see events going maybe in the next 12 months? What would be your ideal event if everything goes to plan, the vaccine's rolled out as promised, within the next 12 months? What is your perfect event that could have happened?
Oh, that's a good one. Perfect event. I'm not sure probably exists quite. I tell you, actually, one that I had a discussion this week. I had a call or last week with Sally Plant, who's part of the financial planning part of CISI. And she came up with a fantastic idea, which we need to take forward, which is to do a YPN festival. And I think this will be the equivalent of CISI's annual dinners, but we will YPN that to make it a little bit more fun and young, and maybe get some music. And that would be the ideal if we can do something. I mean, and that would be quite COVID safe. We could do it outdoors, open air, and we'll just have, our own little CISI Glastonbury. I think that would be brilliant. So that would be fantastic. But I think in terms of, on the smaller side, I mean, that could be a fantastic, big event. The small stuff, I think, is about bringing those virtual things back to face. We talked recently on one of our committee meetings around the idea of doing you do like the cooking at home, where you had the virtual things and you have to try and make a pizza or something mad that you just think, I'm never going to be able to do that, and you're all over the place on Zoom. Why not do that in real life? I think that would be a fantastic event for us to get, big industrial kitchen, get some YPN members in, we can make some ridiculous meal, and then you're sort of forced to eat what you've concocted. But it's, you share your meal, you share the experience, and then you kind of network over the food at the end with some, wine and other nice things as well. I just think I think that'd be really good. I think that's the key thing, bringing people back together again. And I love doing that through food and drink and pub quizzes, as you know.
Yeah, well, you say there's no such thing as a perfect event, but that does sound pretty good. If there's no such thing supposedly as a perfect event, have you got your dream speaker, dream guest speaker? Put it
This
on.
is I'll confess, so I knew this question was coming and I've been umming and ahhing about this one, and I've debated it with some people as well. And I think what I've come down to is I would like to hear from the graduate that signed up with Chris Whitty before the pandemic happened, who thought they were going to be in a sleepy civil service role and then got hit with the everything from the photocopying to the data analytics to whatever it might have been on pandemic and coronavirus statistics and death rates and how to cut the data and what to present and not to present, etc. And I would like a completely uncut version of what they've really experienced and how their career has started underneath someone as fantastic as Chris Whitty has been during this kind of process.
I would imagine that poor kid needs a good sleep, to be honest.
And a holiday, quite possibly.
Yeah.
Could be the first one with their passports, that's for sure.
Exactly, probably not another speaking event. Yeah. But anyway, that is the sort of the future for the CISI YPN. What does the future have in store for Emma Dobson? What are you most looking forward to? Getting back into the office or traveling? And then professionally, are you going to keep flying the flag for the YPN and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll always fly the flag for the YPN. I really strongly believe in what we're trying to do, what the YPN are. We are the future of financial services. And I think, if we can get it right, then we will create and shape how financial services world is going to progress. I think it's a really interesting time with Brexit, especially seeing how things progress from that perspective. I'll be honest, I'd love to travel more, and I've talked about not just traveling for holidays and getting away and exploring, but traveling for work as well. I lived abroad, I studied abroad. It'd be fun to go and do that from a work capacity as well. So that's something that I'd like to explore. But equally, I think the big thing for me is going to be a bit more work and life balance. I feel like one of the things that I have learned from this experience is that you can work really hard, but then missing family and being away from people is quite tough. So I want to make the most of that. I think I want to make sure that I'm making the most of family and friends and things like that too. So just kind of getting out there and not being scared to seize the moment, I suppose, is the key thing. And that I think will come to work as well. I think I've learned a lot about, resilience, I keep talking about, but the resilience of what we've achieved in lockdown, it's been really tough. And I think people don't give themselves enough credit for, the working environment is hard, but it's obviously hard in many ways. If you then apply on top of that the challenges, the mental challenges and the mental health challenges that come with working from home and being away from family and loved ones and being out of a routine, not to mention the fact that it's going to be hard going back. I think going back to normal, going back to the office, I'd love the idea of it, but I think it could be quite overwhelming. And as much as it was overwhelming coming into lockdown, coming out, I think will be equally challenging on people's brains. So I think that's important too. And in terms of sort of them work and taking that forward, I think it's just about realizing how much you can do when things are normal. And I want to keep that energy and keep that kind of challenge and then not let that lax. So it's really, I'm sort of contradicting myself. I want to have work-life balance, but I then want to work super hard when I'm working and then relax and be with family when I'm not. So yeah, I want more of everything. I want to live as hard as I can.
Well, I think that sounds brilliant. And I think a good time to sort of end our first round of our sort of introductory interviews as part of the committee. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much, Emma. Anyway, I have been Ross Jeffries, and this has been the first foray into the CISI YPN.
Thank you very much, Ross.